My name is Tiana Marino, and I am the wife of a shepherd, my husband Antonio. We both currently reside in the mountains of Subiaco, Italy. The year is now 580 AD, but I will tell you the tales of how it all came to be. St. Benedict and the Western Monasticism. We are both Catholic adherents, and we used to live in the city of Rome. Rome in the 6th century, however, was not at all an easy time. With the Roman Empire slowly disintegrating, the last Etruscan Empire, Lucius Tarquinius Superbus, disposed of in 496 AD. The collapse of the Roman Empire was due to social and economic insecurity between the rich and poor. The church system was known as the Roman Imperial Church, the system highly associated with the empire, patronized and largely controlled by the Roman emperors at the time. Bishops back then were viewed as political figures, gaining enough power to encourage favoritism and accumulation of vast amounts of wealth gifted through imperial donations and gifts from the faithful. These acts go directly against the teachings within the Bible. Give justice to the weak and the fatherless. Maintain the right of the afflicted and destitute. Psalms 82:3. Major liturgical celebrations were still largely celebrated, of course, such as Christmas, Epiphany, Easter, and Pentecost, celebrated through Mass, processions, and visits to the graves and shrines of old Roman martyrs. However, this didn't stop the internal corruption, division, and turmoil about faith issues that arose within the Church, not to mention the development of paganism, thus led to the fall of the Western Roman Empire. Before the chaos began, me and my husband escaped the city to an unknown small village known as Subiaco in Italy, approximately 75 kilometers northeast of Rome. This was where we met the benevolent St. Benedict. St. Benedict was a religious reformer and lived in Italy from 480 to 547 AD. After attending primary schools in Nausea, Benedict went to Rome to broaden his knowledge of literature and law. However, after feeling disgusted by the paganism and faithlessness he saw in Rome, similar to us, St. Benedict went on a spiritual retreat in a cave in the ruins of Nero's village in Subiaco. St. Benedict's sister, St. Scholastica, also followed him into retreat. Such a sweet and kind man. I still remember that day my husband and some local shepherds found his cave after St. Benedict's 3 years of retreat. While in the cave, he created the rule of St. Benedict that would soon become the norm for innumerable Christian monks and nuns. It certainly did for us. This simple set of guidelines for how the life of a monk should be lived has become one of the most influential works in all of Western Catholic history, including 73 chapters, from information on monks to procedures on the celebration of Lent, providing ecumenical appeal that further established our connection with God, as well as introduced the new way of living in which he called it Monasticism, inspired by earlier monks and monastic communities such as St. John Cassian of the monasteries of Marseille and St. Abrams of the influence of monastic values in Milan. St. Benedict's unwavering faithfulness to Christ is reflected in the teaching of Jesus in the true vine. Remain in me and I will remain in you. For a branch cannot produce fruit if it is severed from the vine, and you cannot be fruitful unless you remain in me. John 15:4. It was said that St. Benedict only moved out of the cave due to the jealousy and loathing of the local priests when the community of Subiaco went only to St. Benedict's cave. Ha! I will put my money on that. After moving out of the cave, St. Benedict established 12 monasteries in Subiaco. Benedictine monasteries were centers of classical learning and Christian culture, revolving around the 5 practices: prayer, work, study, hospitality, and renewal. The Benedictine monasticism is not bound into a unified religious order headed by a superior general. Likewise, during the reign of the Roman Empire, each Benedictine congregation is autonomous, unlike the Roman Imperial Church, governed by an abbot or abbess, a title given to the head of an independent monastery. This made Christians like myself live modest yet plentiful lives, further developing our spiritual and material well-being. Teachings of hospitality and care for the sick and vulnerable from the rule included care of the sick must rank above and before all else, so they may truly be served as Christ. Chapter 36, Care of the Sick, as well as let all guests who arrive be received like Christ. Chapter 53, The Reception of Guests. These teachings display St. Benedict's love and compassion to both others and the sick and vulnerable. As stated in the parable of the Good Samaritan, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. Matthew 22:39. Benedict of Nausea also traveled to Monte Cassino, where he established a monastery in AD 529, 80 miles south of Rome. The faith grew even after his death in 547 AD. In the year 580 AD, the Benedictine community traveled back to Rome, where the Pope of that century, Gregory the Great, helped them establish a monastery there. St. Scholastica's twin sister also significantly influenced and spread awareness upon the now well-known faith of monasticism. Best known as the foundress for the Benedictine nuns, worked with John B. Paulding, the Good Samaritan Sisters, and founder of a religious community for women near Monte Cassino at Pombariolo. Now he is known as the most influential of Western monks, and we call him the father of Western monasticism. As a renowned fortune teller in Italy, I have a prophecy that in the 21st century there will be social issues, racism, and horrors I cannot even imagine. As both a follower of St. Benedict and a believer in peace and love and community, I strongly advise you as a follower of Christ and someone of the future to continue to adopt St. Benedict's values. We need to be reminded that there are still the simple joys in empathy and caring for one another as a community. As stated in, "Let them prefer nothing whatever to Christ, may he bring us all together to everlasting life." Rule of St. Benedict, Chapter 72.